Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Uh-huh. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Fairview's coffee has mysteriously gone missing. Mayhem ensues when strange, coffee-craving zombies plague the city. Detective Mickey Potatoes, an overworked public servant, uncovers why ordinary citizens are losing their minds and how to stop the coffee apocalypse. But it involves the mafia. And when you're dealing with mafia crime families, nothing is ever easy. The mafia controls everything in the city, including the police, including him. If he breaks the mafia, they will break him. So, the city is without coffee. The city is burning before his very eyes, but he's powerless. Detective Potatoes has the power to stop the coffee apocalypse, but if he does, he could lose everything.
What is Path of the Pale Rider anyway? Is it a comic book? No, that's not it. Is it this? What the heck is Path of the Pale Rider, man? There's no way this is right. How about this? I have no idea.
We're gonna rob a bank.
Oh, it's this.
Madness Comic Network and Comic Related Madness proudly presents Madness Tuesday Morning Brew. Tune in to our content on Comic Talk with Pops Van Zandt on YouTube.
What's up, everybody? Good morning. It's Tuesday. Good morning. It's Tuesday. I brought my coffee. I'm telling you, I swear to God, I'm not over caffeinated yet. I'm just really excited to be here. My guest today is awesome. Xing and I have kind of seen each other. Like, I've been in chats and shows that he's on, and he's been in the chat, and I've seen him on Facebook, and super interesting project. And I was honored when he decided he was going to come on the show. And so I've really been looking forward to today to like pick his brain and ask all the good questions and like get the nitty gritty. You know what I mean? I'm here for that today. But updates on Path of the Pale Rider, just so you know, we're still diligently working on issue number 4. Marco and Matt are doing their thing, getting pages worked out, fine-tuning the things, and it's just I am having such a hard time because I want to show y'all all of the things that they're doing, but I can't because it's like every single thing in this issue is a major spoiler. I think I found like one panel I could show where I was like, look at this, but it's like, you know, very little information. So I'll see if I can find another like couple breadcrumbs I can throw in there. Devill's there, that's where we're going next, dude. As soon as issue 4 is done, I'm already formatting the trade paperback. And so we will be campaigning probably early in 2024 after the issue number 4 is completely fulfilled. We'll be pushing that button, and we're going to be doing a big print for that trade paperback. I'm super excited. I've already been planning out some really cool bonus material and like some merch to go along with the trade paperback. And you guys, I'm sure you will love it. So that's what's going on for us. You know, it's kind of crazy. I'm looking at how many episodes we've done of the Tuesday Morning Brew. I picked up the show right around episode 50, and we're on episode 98. So in 2 weeks, we're going to be celebrating 100 episodes of the Tuesday Morning Brew, which is amazing. And then 50 for me. I don't know. We'll have to do something special, but it's going to be like right at Christmas time. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anyway, let's bring in today's guest. I'm super excited to have everybody hang out with me and my new bestie, Xing. Hello, how are you this morning?
I'm okay. How about you?
I'm good. Did I wake you up there with my intro? I'm usually pretty cool in the back room when like everybody comes in, so I don't scare them. And then like the show starts, and I'm like, "Man, it's Tuesday!" Try to wake everybody, including myself, up.
No, it's good. Enthusiasm is good. That's a good thing. And congrats on the coming up on the 100th episode of your show. That's really cool.
Crazy, man. Every week I keep doing the next one, and it's like, wow, I can't believe we're going to be up to 100 pretty soon. So very exciting. Yeah, we've had lots of really interesting shows, lots of great guests. So I hope it'll continue for another 100. You know?
Right. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I look at comics today, and I look at the way they were, 20, 30 years ago. And there are so many more independent books that exist today. Whereas, years ago, most of those books, they didn't get past like 1, maybe 2 issues, and then that was it. They just kind of, that was it. It was very difficult to get things. But so to see, there's a lot of creators, and crowdfunding has changed so many things for how people do things and do business, and the internet, social media. I mean, it's so different now.
Right.
Than how it was all those years ago. So.
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of look at the history of comic books. I love horror, so I've done multiple studies into like different horror genres to look at the evolution Because
Okay.
horror, in my mind, is like it's a window into what humanity is afraid of at the time. So
Mm,
I'm always interested, you know what I mean? What is scaring people right now? You know, was it the atomic age where we created the atomic bomb and all of a sudden, is it diseases, infections? You know what I mean? Like it's interesting to me to watch how history, the media that is, and I know you and I have been part of that very much so.
yeah, I mean, the things are a product of the time. So many
Yes,
things. I mean, that's just what they are. They are the resulting effects of things that are happening, everywhere. And it changes, and then it adapts, but then you can reference things from all of these different aspects to kind of find new ways to tell, something engaging, something unique in a different era, but it still harkens back to those, it can give those same kind of feelings that, and I don't want to call it nostalgia, especially for certain things that are been terrifying for humanity, but it's, but people can, history looks back on really pivotal moments, and it's kind of like, wow, this was happening, and what was it like, and so to be
yes,
able to kind of tell those stories where you're, kind of filling in the narrative for certain things, I mean, it makes for
right,
intriguing reading. It's an interesting perspective.
right, right. Um, this is the first time you and I have actually got to interact,
Hmm.
on the same screen. So I would like, can you tell us your origin story? Tell us how you got into comics and writing and art and all of that good stuff. Because that'll be the first time for me hearing like your whole story. So would you be
Oh,
so kind?
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, from as long as I can remember, hey, Pop,
I know
um,
everybody's in the chat this morning.
hey,
Look.
Cheyenne, um, for me, uh, oh, thanks, brother. I appreciate it. I'm so glad that you enjoy it. I grew up, part of my family, is Asian. And so
Mhm.
I grew up in a very diverse family. And so I was exposed to a lot of things from a very early age that many people were not. Not just culturally, but entertainment wise, different things like that. And most growing up, most kids, maybe they're into sports, they're into, football and baseball and those, and I just wasn't into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
My mind was always in the clouds. I was always dreaming of places that are far away and not real, and wanting to go on these adventures. And um, I remember the first time I was introduced to Lord of the Rings. I was in the fifth grade,
Life
and
changing.
right, and I mean, I'm old, so this was like, it was a long time ago. We don't have to get into more of those details, but it was like, you know, it just, that's what it was. And so then from that, and getting into, and I always enjoyed history.
Hmm.
That always fascinated me. So history from Europe, uh, various parts of the Orient, from Greece, these different things. And then, I was drawing for as long as I could remember,
Hmm.
always kind of telling my own stories and just doing that. And then I remember I was 12 when I first started working on what is Ximphonic Verses. That was originally when, right, that's originally when it started. And then, like, as I thought about, as the years went on, because it went from days to weeks to months, and then years went on, and I still have the original pages and designs that I drew of the characters, from all those. Sometimes I post them on Facebook, just that kind of like trip through memory lane kind of thing. And what I began to realize was that when you look at people like Shakespeare, you look at Hamlet, you look at these great literary works, look at Homer, look at the Iliad, the Odyssey. Why did these men write these stories? What was the point? What motivated them? What were they going through? What was culturally happening for their own civilizations at their times? What things did they know of? Rumors, whispers, events that were taking place in their own communities. Sorry, I need to mute that. Just all of these things. And so it really became this thing where it's like, not just even from that perspective, but look at Egypt, look at any Persia, look at any ancient civilization. There is a reason that storytelling was such an important part of their culture. There is a reason that art, that mythos, this idea that there are these things far more grand than us could exist, and they could be there and be part of the tapestry of what makes these heroes unique, what makes these villains so terrible and vile and complex. And so storytelling began to then really take these different shapes for me, as to how you present things and how you kind of want to go about it. And then in 1996, I published my first comic of Ximphonic Verses. And of course, I was green as the Emerald City.
What year? What year was this?
1996.
1996.
Yeah, and there was no print on demand. There was no social media. There was no internet. There were so many things that it did not exist as it does today. So I had to learn everything on my own. And I've read some Western style comics, and we all, I know of so many of them from the DC and the Marvel, and I get that. I get why, here in the West, that is kind of the mythos of the Western culture, these superheroes, these ideas with these things. And so I can appreciate that. But for me, that's not really what I found fascinating. It really that wasn't enough. So for me, I was into wuxia and manhwa, which are the Chinese and Korean comics. And again, that comes from growing up in a family that is very diverse. My grandmother, like I said, my grandmother is from Taiwan. So when you have those kind of influences in your life, it exposes you to other things that most people don't know of. Like, I chuckle about certain things. Like today, there are so many people who, and I'm not really into manga, known about it for decades. It's cool, but it's not really my thing. Like I said, that really wasn't what I wanted to. However, because it's become so popular, because anime has become so popular and it's everywhere, and now it's part of pop culture here, even in the West. There are so many things that now try to mimic it. They try to really create these other things that were already established. And so now when I see people and they're like, oh, did you see this? And I read it, and it's like, I remember when you wanted to see certain anime, you had to go to typically Asian markets. Very few comic shops carried it. Not many did. Some did, but not all of them. Thanks, man. That is really, that's all anyone can do is you have to keep refining what you do. You can't say, oh, I did this and I settled and that's enough. No. It's a lifetime of persistence and practice, and that's just what you do. And I never look at it like I'm good at anything. I just try to keep understanding, what am I doing at the moment? that will allow me to evolve this to something even greater? What can I do to refine this more so that when I do the next one, it's like this? But back to the anime. So the point is
Yes.
like,
Sorry.
I remember, no, so they used to come in these really big VHS boxes that were white or they were black, and they had the slip cover cut out, and it was slid in between the plastic on there, and they were super expensive, like $40-$60 sometimes for some of these just VHSs to watch these things. And so today, yes, I'm glad that more and more people are realizing and appreciating that for years certain things have been ahead of the curve. They have. Professor Tolkien was ahead of the curve for his generation. Yes. Homer was ahead of for his generation. So, there are just these people who come along in these eras of life, and they're just kind of on to something that not everyone is maybe quite grasping what it is at the time. And so I make my first issue, black and white. I still have it. I still have all the books that I've
amazing.
And it looks, it's bad. And if you see it up close, because of how printing is done, and you have to have the pages done in sets of 4, the way that it's folded, and then for it to be stable and things like that. And so I had to trim it with a paper trimmer. And so the edges are tattered. It's like, it's so bad. It is so bad. But I think about that, and I think about what I was doing back then, when there was no reference sheet, it was very hard to get people to try to help you. Comics, I think something that maybe a lot of people who maybe they're new to comics, or they're been in it for maybe a few years, is that comics used to be very much like wrestling, in the sense of unless you knew somebody in the business, to someone, or someone was willing to really take a chance on you, you did not get into those territories easily. It did not happen that way. It was so difficult. And so back then, unless you had a major name on what you were trying to do, it didn't work. It just, and again, most independent books back then, they would not last more than maybe 2, maybe 3 issues. And I know, because I saw it. I saw the things that people were doing, and it just wasn't making it. It wasn't enough for it to turn into something else. And so I took what I was doing, and I remember after I made the copies and I cut them, and they were so awful, and they were just like so choppy, but they were evenly stapled on the end, so I was grateful about that. So that was at least a plus side, right? And the first copy I ever sold was in front of a 7-Eleven, and I was out there, and I was just like, I was waiting for people to come by to see like who might seem to be interested, and I was just holding, and this guy came by, and he was like, "What's up, man?" And I was like, "Yo," I was like, "Hey, man, you into comics? You like?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then I opened it and I showed it to him. He's like, "Yeah, man, I get it. I'm gonna get it right now." And so then he, gave me $5. I first book sold, and then it was like, okay, I got that. It's like this. It's like a flavor that you can't quite describe the taste of. This exhilaration that comes from knowing that you've taken something that is not real, that is not connected to anything else. It's not based on something that people are familiar with. It is not set in a world that, people have, a lot of people like to do the public domain kind of characters. And I know people do that. I don't like things like that, but that's just me. But I think that the greater reward comes from saying, okay, let me take this and, let me turn it into something else. Let me, so then I just kept working on the series, and I kept writing, and I kept drawing, and I kept designing. And as time went on, everything just started taking this natural shape that it needed to. And then I was like, okay, I've, sold, I was going to shows at that point. I was selling black and white copies. I was learning about coloring. The first time I had access to Photoshop was Photoshop 5. That was my first introduction to Photoshop. And so it was like, okay, there's that. And again, just this learning, this learning curve for everything. And so the years went on, and I kept publishing, and I just kept doing that. Now, I tried for a very long time. I thought, well, let me submit it to companies, because that will help to it will put it out in front of the masses much easier. So I started submitting, and the rejection came, and the first ones, they were terrible. It was hurtful. Like, you feel really bad about yourself, and you're like, oh God, this is really terrible. Yeah. I don't know. And so then I kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it. And by the time I had got the 10th rejection, the effect of it hurting had wore off. That was no longer, it was like, no. You just, you find another angle, and you work that angle, and then of how you present it to them. And then I would submit again and again. Right. Well, more years went on, and as it stands today, I'm sitting at 173 rejections. That's how many times publishers said no.
But even though, here, wait, I'll put this up here. Because this is amazing to me, and I have so many questions regarding the method in which, that you are working through the different, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of us are crowdfunding, and you're like, F that, I'm doing direct sales, right? Mm-hmm. But look, so 173 rejections from, mainstream publishers, but you have sold 5,901 copies. Yeah. And I'm sure it's gone up since you sent me this. You see what I mean?
There are actually, I had eight other sales recently. So I just haven't updated that one.
Right. So the rejections mean nothing. You know what I mean? They mean nothing.
It means nothing. That is a mute issue, because I think about how, like, when I had
I have a file with all my rejection letters in it. I was thinking of writing a book about them. You could just
you should. Yeah. I mean,
and it's funny too, because I've been watching that stupid Squid Game challenge right now, where they took the TV show and they turned it into an actual reality TV game. But even that guy with Squid Game script, he's like, I was rejected hundreds of times, Yeah. He's like, I think I sat down in a real situation about 13 times, and this was the 14th time when they finally picked it up. So, I mean, this rejection, I think, is just part of it.
It's part, like, it is part. When I sometimes I hear creators say, oh, I got, 4 or 5 rejections, and it upset me, and it's like, I get it. We, wait, do I do what?
International shipping. I wasn't going to interrupt you. I would ask if.
Oh, yeah, no, I do.
Yeah.
So one thing that I can tell you about Ximphonic Verses, anyone who has read it, what you see in the artwork and then what you see on the inside is exactly the same. I have spent years of suffering to create the style that is unique to my series. And so that, I ship anywhere in the world. And it's funny. I mean, there is an actual Ximphonic Verses fan club in Germany, which is cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's very. I was like, wow, that's very kind of them. And the only place that I have not sold books to yet is South Africa. That's the only place in the world I haven't shipped to. But I've shipped books to all these other places, and so after the rejections, all these things, I just decided, okay, I'm going to start my own company. I'll just start my own label, and I'll just self-publish. I'll just do it myself, because if I can't get them to believe in it, then I have to believe in it. I have to believe in what I'm doing, so I'll just do it myself. So I start doing that, and then I get a message. A gentleman messaged me. I had put up a poster of Prince Adonis holding one of his swords, and it was just like this promotional piece that I had finished recently. And he messaged me, and he was like, "What is this?" And at that time, I was like, "Oh, it's the main character from my series," and I wasn't really thinking a lot about it. And he was like, "You know what? I want you to contact me at 3 on Monday." And I didn't know what he was. I thought maybe he was an art dealer. I thought, okay, maybe it's like someone who wants to, put it up like in an art show, or maybe I didn't know. There were so many things I was thinking. I didn't know what it was, but he emphasized. He's like, "Do not be late. Call at exactly 3 p.m. this number." And I'm just like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but all right. So I call. I checked the times to make sure I was I had the right time zone versus where I was at, so I wouldn't be late. And I don't know what's going on. And so I call, and he picks up, and he's like, "Oh, good, you called right on time." And I was just like, "Yeah, I don't know what's happening."
Because you told me to, and you said, "Don't be late."
Like, hey, don't be late. Call at exactly this time. So I'm like, okay. Next thing I know, he says, "I'm going to put you on speakerphone. I'm here. Board of directors are here, and the president of the film company is here." And I'm just like, wait, what? What
am I doing?
Right. I'm just like,
he's like, "Oh, you're pitching your stuff to we're gonna make it into a show."
Yeah,
right?
And the guy,
that's basically what he said. And you're like,
he was like, "You have 30 seconds, pitch it to us." And I'm just like, okay. So I go into it, and then I do my 30-second pitch, and they're in the, I can hear, it's inaudible. I can't hear what they're saying, but I can hear them talking. And the next thing I know, the president of the film company gets on the phone, and he says, "You know what? I like it, and we're going to turn it into a TV show." And I thought I was being pranked.
When was
I thought
this?
it was a joke. This was 2017.
Oh my gosh.
I think it was 2017. And I'm just like, I will never forget when I was holding the phone. And it's like, I just remember I was holding the phone, and I'm like, this is a joke, right? Like, I'm being pranked. It can't be real, because I couldn't get publishers to be interested. I couldn't get them to say, "Hey, you know what? We want to take a chance on this. We see it's something very unique. It's very different. We think it could work." No. And so I'm like, wait a minute. A movie studio wants to turn it into a TV show, and I didn't set out to turn it into that's not what I set out to do. I just was like, well, if I can just tell my story, and if maybe somebody likes it, then I'm content with that. That means maybe I did something partially right. And then they said, well, we're going to sweeten the pot, and you're going to be one of the executive producers and one of the lead writers on the show.
Yes,
so
please.
Then they gave me, as the IMDb shows, they gave me actual Hollywood credits on the series, and then hi Carissa. And then the next thing you know, they're like, what else do you do? What else do you have? And I say, well, I've got other stories aside from Ximphonic Verses, and they've picked up the majority of my library of books to be TV shows. And so in 2018, we started talking with companies about, things for the show and going over it. 2019, the show goes into production. We're doing the storyboards. The animatic gets completed. And the animatic, if anyone's not familiar, that's kind of the skeletal system of an animated show. That's what is built upon that's everything that you see that's polished and perfect and pretty with lights and rigging and special effects and all of these things. And so we get to that. We're working on that. The animatic gets finished. The show was originally set to air on Amazon. I can talk about that now because it didn't. The reason why that didn't happen is because then COVID hits.
Right.
And the whole world shuts down. All these things happen. So a lot of the deals that were going to go didn't go. They fell apart because it was like animation studios are shutting down. All these things are closing. So everything just kind of went dormant. And it was like, okay, so that happened. And it was like, what can you do? It was just it was something that happened. And it was like, okay. So then in 2022, I knew these artists from Japan who were very well known. I said, do you have any experience with animation? And they're like, no, we don't, but we know artists that do. So I'll put you in touch with them. So they put me in touch with them. And then I meet these other team of people, these skills, the amazing knowledge to which they possess is mind-boggling. And so it's like, okay, I'm talking to them. They're explaining to me the experience that they have. So I'm like, okay, the movie studio let me write and direct the trailer. So when people see it, I've all the concepts, all that stuff, they just let me do whatever I wanted to do. And
that's
so
amazing.
Right. It was very fun. I truly appreciate it because it gave me a chance to say, okay, I can do the things that I do for my own series because I understand it. I know how it should be. And so then I meet this new team and they automatically, they completely understand everything that I want to achieve with it. And so we start on the storyboards again for a new trailer, and they're being done in Japan. We're still working on them. This team, what makes them even more amazing is that they worked on Final Fantasy. So that tells you the caliber of, that's the level of experience, that's the level of skill that these individuals possess. And they
kind of need that.
Right. You need that kind of, right. That
not just anybody could tackle this.
Like for anyone who's seen the art, if you're seeing it for the first time, one, that is not AI. All of this is drawn. I've been publishing the book in color like this since 2014. This is how it has looked. And it took a long time to develop this style that you see, years and years and years. So the way this looks, this is how every page and panel looks in the book. It is exactly like this. And that is the one thing I can guarantee the quality of how it is presented. And so then all these things are happening that I didn't think would ever happen. I didn't think would ever go on. And then I start getting the prototype toys made.
Yes.
And then, which the Adonis is in a locked case over there, so I don't have that one, but I do have. So this is Lady Sapphirose, who she is the lead female character. This is her in her imperial attire that you see her wear in Consequence 1 when her and Adonis meet. Now in the book, her dress, there are like these divine waters from something they call Inith Ularian that are coming off the dress and around it. And they actually made the plastic, the manufacturer made that effect that you can sit her inside of. I didn't get those out. They're sitting over there. So then the next is we have Countess Concerto Maestro. Concerto Maestro is the main character's mentor. She's an extremely powerful warrior, very skilled, very dangerous. And this is her, this armor. You actually see her get this armor in the Consequence 3 prelude, is when you see her first adorn it for the first time. But for the figure, I decided, well, I want to start with that, and then we can make the versions where she's wearing her other attire and things like that. So they even made her sword, and she has her fan shield as well. And the cool thing about this is even when you pull the sword out of the sheath and you put it back in, it makes that like sound. So it's really cool the way that they were able to do that. And then this is a Shadow Knight swordsman, and the Shadow Knights are, if you look at Star Wars and you think about like the clones and the droid army, the Shadow Knights are kind of like that. So in the series, the Shadow Knights are warriors by like race that possess these terrifying powers, and they're ruled by Gaius Ippitus, who is their king. And he has these warlords that serve under him that possess these other horrifying powers and abilities. And then their army is made up of millions and millions and millions of these infantry. This is a low-level infantry soldier. Then there are elite ones, and then there are other ones that are like generals and lieutenant commanders that serve directly under the various warlord and the clan that they serve from where they come from. And so, and this, he has his sheath on the back. He has the dual swords. They are removable. And I mean, the figures are really heavy. They did a really great job on this. And these are very reminiscent of the Final Fantasy, like Play Arts Kai kind of figures. So that's what I was going for. Yeah. And so the figures are 11 inches. Some of them will be taller depending on which character it is. But you know, these are the figures for that. This is actually right. Oh, you've got the pictures. Awesome.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I can show people a little bit closer. Who's this character up top? This first one.
So that's the main character. That's Prince Adonis. That's the one that is in the locked shelf. I have a display case over there, and he's in a locked case. Yes. I just don't ever take him out of it, because that was the very first one that I got made. And it's crazy because, you know, to see things that you created like in tangible corporeal form in front of you, it's just kind of like, that is really there's not really words for that, but
I agree. I don't have any cool action figures yet. Someday I would like to, but I have the Funko Pops of my characters being made.
Nice.
And like even those, because they're super cute. But when I got like the undead bear, and he's giant, he's a bobblehead, and the guys that made him for me, it's a couple, it's a man and a wife. They flocked the bear that I got, so he actually has fur on it, and like all the scars match. Nice. Like it's super cool. So I get you when you're like, look at this thing. This came out of my head. Like, how does this exist?
It's so cool when you can see it come to life that way. And oh yeah, there's the water. That's the water from Sapphirose. And what makes this so rewarding in that sense is it's like there are actually 2 more figures being made right now. Well, no, one is done. The other one is Sapphirose in her armor. The other one is Florette, who she's a high-ranking lieutenant commander who she knows how to kill people like Adonis. She's been trained specially to fight people like him because of his powers, because of the abilities that he possesses in the series, the things that he can do. And so they've made her figure. Then they're making the Sapphirose in her armor, which I can't wait.
Devil's Lair is on board. He says, you got another buyer, just don't know when I can buy or how, but this looks great.
Oh, I appreciate it. And I can tell you, any book that you get from me, one, it comes bagged and board. I print magazine size. There are custom black backing boards. You get flyers, you get bookmarks, you get stickers. They come in boxes. So you get boxes like this. That have
so cool.
And I will tell you something else, and this is something there are people who, if they were
such
here,
cool swag, Zing. Where do you get those made? We all need to know.
These I shop around until I find companies who can do exactly what I need, and I go through trial and error with, can they do this? Can they do that? Is this possible? Can you this is the toy box. This is the prototype toy box for the action figure, and it's cool because when you open it, when it opens, so first thing is you get this glimpse of Gaius Ippitus right there. Oh, there he goes. That's Gaius, who's the leader of the Shadow Knights. So you get that image of him, but then you open it, and inside there is all of the kind of art, the things that you see is printed inside as well. And so this is the first prototype for the toy box. And then once the full prototype line for the action figures are done, those will all be finished, and then those are used for the licensing deal, so that then when they're mass produced, they'll be available anywhere to be sold. And it's like, I already had Big Bad Toy Store message me about them. So, and there are a lot of people who want the toys, and I want them to have them, but we just have to get everything in place to get them produced on a massive scale like that, because that takes a lot of resources, like a ridiculous amount. And so that's why at least I have these kind of things made so that I can show people, we're able to let them see this is the quality, these are the things that you're getting. And it's funny because I can say this with assurance, and I know that it's true, because no one at the time was doing that at all. I was selling collectible box sets of comics with art and things like that before any publisher, any of them. Because years and years ago, for me, I always looked at things that I liked and the way it was presented. And I didn't see that in comics. I didn't see that in the way that they would do it. I saw it in other mediums. And I decided, well, why not really give people a bang for their buck? Really give them an experience that they cannot get with, any other way except for it to be presented the way that it is. And I started doing that. And then all these years later, now it's become a common thing. But back in the day, nobody was doing that but me. And I know that because it wasn't there. It did not exist. It just wasn't around. But now it's become a norm that you see, especially for crowdfunding campaigns and things like that. Comic Shop Wednesday. Oh no, I appreciate it. I really thank you very much.
You.
It's very kind. And it's, you know, these things don't come without setbacks, without difficulties.
Yes.
I mean, the fact that here we were in production and then it stopped, and
COVID.
you know, for COVID, and there are things that are going on with the show that I can't, you know, I can't talk about publicly yet, but there are things happening that I know what's going on. I know, you know, what's happening with the streaming, and I just have to wait. I have to wait until I get the green light to say, okay, now we can talk about these things. These things are going to be revealed publicly, and so it's a lot to it. So right now, I'm still just getting the prototype toys produced, and I'm still making the books. And right now, I'm drawing books 4, 5, and 6 at the same time. Yeah.
Are you crazy?
Yeah, probably, and not for the reasons people might think.
Oh my goodness. Devil's Ear would like to know, is it all ages? What's the age range? So I don't, you know, so when he goes to share your information that he correctly.
Yeah, so I mean, anyone can, you know, people from 15 to 90 could read it. It's not, there's not nudity, there's not like, there's a lot of action, there's a lot, but it's not like gore or like horror style level violence. It's not things like that. It's oh, that's odd. Why is the shop showing? The shop looks odd. It shouldn't look that way. That is very interesting. No, it's supposed to look,
section.
It's supposed to look different. Oh, maybe it didn't update on the other. Okay, that's okay. That's not. Now that I know that, I can go fix that stuff. I'll worry about that.
Don't you hate that? I've done that too, where I'm not campaigning, and like we went through my website, and I was like, oh crap.
It's like there are things that are supposed to be there. It's like
right. That's not current. Nope, that's gone.
No, that's not the way. I fixed it the other day, and I thought the publish. I just made updates. Okay, well, anyways, so because Consequence 1 is actually sold out, so there's an image that has like the sold out sticker across it, and the Exordium set actually has all new covers. I made new covers for it, and then now the Volume 4, the Consequence 4, or Volume 4 Prelude, is included in that set. So that's been updated, and I don't know why that's not showing like that, but okay. But anyway, so it is, anyone can pick it up and read it. If you enjoy things like Castlevania, if you enjoy Final Fantasy, if you enjoy Hamlet and things like Bram Stoker's Dracula, yes, there are these dark themes and elements to it, but it's dark in the sense of the suffering. It's dark in the sense of the tragedy, of the heartbreak, of this near macabre cacophony of things that can go wrong and that do go wrong. And you're looking at these characters who live in this world that is so, if they're the world of Ximphonic Verses, it takes place in a planet called Levi Samanos V. And like, okay, this image right here, this is a perfect example. When you look at it, so from left to right, we have Adonis, Sapphirос, Theseus, Harpsichord, Fantazine, Concerto, and Gaius. Now, the significance of this image is that from Gaius to Fantazine, Harpsichord, Harpsis, Theseus, Sapphiros, they're all looking forward. They're all kind of looking away. Adonis is the only person looking backwards. And because that's representing his inability to let go. It's his inability to cope and deal with these tragedies that he has suffered through. And by that, he's now making choices that are forcing him down this path that he cannot come back from. And so in the series, really the crux of the series is that he has to make a choice not between good and bad. The dichotomy is between an evil and a greater evil. So how can you do what's right when you can only do what's wrong? That's the whole point of where his suffering and his struggling is at. And so he learns that there is a way to possibly fix the things that have gone wrong, that he could save his beloved wife and return him to him. But in order to do that, he has to try to find this foreboding power. But even if you could have mastery over death, at what cost does it come? What is the price that is paid to attain certain things? And so those really are the very human themes that run through the series with these characters. But when you see the way they look, the world is very Baroque, it's very Rococo, but it's based on my own interpretation of design and fantasy and wuxia, and it really is a world that is just unique all to itself, in its presentation, in the way that it looks. And I have the entire world map drawn out, and it is so big. You could literally take 12 by 18 posters and you could cover entire living rooms with those, and it would cover every inch of the wall. It just makes one massive mural image. And so there are all these things. Then on top of that, you have the soundtrack. So the soundtrack was composed by Mike. He very nice guy. He did arrangements for Zelda, Castlevania, for Nintendo.
Wow.
Just super talented. And we spent like 3 or 4 years just on the music alone, for people to be able to get it. And then in 2015, the soundtrack was released for people. And music is not, I don't play music, but I study the theories of it. I study the instruments of it. A lot of that is reflected in the series. And so again, like right here, the artwork that you see, that's actual artwork from the book. Those are actual, that's actual stuff that you see inside the books, panel by panel, page by that. This is what it looks like. And many of the things, from names to kingdoms to all kinds of interactions, it is based around music. It is inspired by music. Ximphonic Verses is really an opera that's dark and tragic and beautiful, and it paints suffering and agony in this really, really stunning fashion. As that's the only time agony is really appropriate, is when you see it in opera. And so it really kind of plays on that whole idea of like commedia dell'arte and that kind of great vaudevillian aspect of what makes these characters so unique and organic to themselves. And you're watching these power plays between these individuals, and you have very few good people in the story, very few honest, decent, good people. And then you have all the other people who are victimizers, who have victimized other people, and now they're victimizing one another. So that's really that's what's happening, is that again harkens to the human side of things that we understand: love and redemption and revenge and forgiveness and hope, and what happens when we lose the things we love, what happens when we don't have the ability to control what we would want, or we are powerless to so many things. And so it puts all of these things before these characters, where the dilemma is the moral dilemma, It is the choice one will make for these things that are seemingly right or wrong, and that sometimes evil is not just evil because it's bad. Evil is often complicated. It's hurt, it's wounded, it's something else that motivates this insatiable need to finish what was began, or to seek revenge or redemption for things that have come to pass. And it all is just kind of laid out there. And as you read through the preludes, you get to because those are used to introduce you to the graphic novels. You get to the graphic novels, and as you read through it and you see this world and you see these things unfolding and all these powers at B that are all vying for supremacy amongst one another, and then you witness Adonis, and readers are watching him fall further and further into this darkness to which he cannot come back from, because he's making choices. He's doing things that no decent person would do. And then the people around him, there's a scene in Consequence 2 where he does something really awful, and he's discussing it with one of the people who serve him, but they're like a sentient entity, but they are a weapon that is subservient to his bloodline. And they're pretty much saying, oh, you didn't do anything wrong. It's them. They're wrong. Your blood is divine. You come from kings. You're a prince. You sit atop the greatest throne in the north. There's all these things, but yet what he has done is not something you should do. It is not acceptable on any level. But the people around him, they're telling him, oh no, sire, you're not wrong at all. You're great. You're the good guy. We love you. They're wrong. They're the heathens. They're unworthy. And so a lot of the topics about his blood being divine, about who he is, who his family is, his father, whose name is Enceculus Cripeum Latreculus, he was the 524th king. Now Adonis, who his name is Adonis Neos Latreculus, he is set to be the 525th king, but he's not. He's still the crown prince. There's a reason he hasn't taken his father's throne. There's a reason he has refused to do that. There is the consitorium, which is made up of the stewards who helped look after the throne until he became older. When you meet Adonis, he's 450 years old in Consequence 1. And so, he's young amongst his contemporaries, because you look at someone like Lady Sapphiros, she's over 1600 years old. And so, they just have this very unique way that their world and their society functions, and these characters have these really great powers and these really amazing abilities and fighting arts and things that they're able to do. And what makes Adonis and Sapphiros so important to the story is that they both behold celestial light, and that is a connection that they share. They are the only people in the world, in their entire world, who share this ability to behold this light. And that is tied into Vero, and Vero in their world, she is the empress, almost what some would call like a deity figure of death, beauty, and agony. That is what she represents, and she blesses those with her power with oblivion that's been kissed upon their lips. And so these are all things that as you go through the series, these things are there, and you're watching these harp strings being played so melodiously, but it's because it's drawing other things to happen, and it makes you question, are we making our own choices, or are there forces at bay that are helping to influence decisions that we will make, choices that we are pursuing, and not everything is what it appears to be. and that, that's a lot of the stuff that goes on in the series. And I like the reader to get that. I like them to there are still things to this day that people have asked about, and I've not given them the answer. It's not because I'm trying to be stingy, but it's because I want people to continue to dig for themselves to get an interpretation of what it means to them, because it may have a different meaning to them. I know what it means. I understand what it is, and readers will too. But if this can help people in any way, that's something that I want to do. Even in the Overture edition, it talks about the notes I put in there, how Ximphonic Verses is also helped. It's written so that if it could be a help to anyone who suffers from PTSD, who suffers from depression, who suffers from, and not that it is not by any means a medical thing. It's not a journal. It's not no, but I have taken it to actual doctors, actual psychologists. I have had them read it, and they've given me their notes, and they've given me their impressions of what it is. And they understand that the point with that I'm trying to make is, it's to show, here is this character who is, he's not human, because this is not Earth. He's a Dracosan. That's what they call that, his race in the world they live in. But here is a person who, he mimics the very things that how many people deal with, how many people suffer from these kind of mental issues and these ailments, and they're trying to find their way through life, and they're trying to cope, and they're trying to adjust, and it is extremely difficult. It is the same thing for him. Just because he's a prince, just because he has power, because he has a kingdom, he has all of these things at his disposal, that doesn't mean that he's happy. That doesn't mean that his life is as it should be. He's actually quite a mess in many ways. And you see that reflected in the things that go on in the series. And so all the experiences, all the failures, the setbacks, the rejections, all of those things, they have led to this point where everything is at right now. And I always encourage creators, if you're new to it, if you've been doing it, don't do the things that everyone else is doing. I get that's easy to do. I understand that. But if you have 10 people and all 10 people have the same skill, how can anyone advance when no one knows more on how to get to the next level? Mm-hmm. But if you want to advance, you need to surround yourself with actual experts. And that means, and there are people who, certain people, they hear this and boy, they get salty behind it. Expert doesn't mean, oh, I ran Kickstarter and I hit all my campaign goals for, and I did $2,000-$3,000. No, that's not what that means. Because yes, they're using a platform to draw in readers. And this loops me back around to what you ask about how do I sell, and I'm not using crowdfunding. So crowdfunding, I get the point of it, but it has become a crutch that people too easily rely on in this society. And I mean that this way. I've seen so many creators say, well, marketing is important, but their version of marketing is, oh, here's my Kickstarter link, go support it. That's not marketing.
That's not marketing.
That's not marketing. That doesn't count at all. That's you telling someone, oh, this is what I do now go support it. That's
where's the buy-in?
Right.
I mean, a lot of people haven't, and this is, we're creators. Creators a lot of times aren't in sales. But usually you have to say, you know, like, look at the product. This is what it can do for you. This is what's exciting about it and different than everybody else. Here's how you go purchase it. Don't you want to come purchase it? Right? There needs to be that buy-in at the end,
There we
but there
go.
needs to be the benefit to it first. I
There
used to
we
sell
go.
jewelry at numerous stores growing up, you know, in college, and, you know, after college I was in
Mhm.
retail. So there needs to be, because again, when you go to the mall, how many jewelry stores are there?
Exactly.
And how many rings are in that jewelry store?
Exactly.
How do you sell a single ring? You have to sell them what's different about it, what's unique about it, what's the benefit for them, what's the fit for them. Because
Right.
again, you can't try to sell, I have a 3-carat diamond and I want to sell that. But person comes in, they're like, my budget's $300. That's not for them.
Right. Exactly.
You got to
You
find
are
something for that person. So again, it's like you have
exactly.
to find your audience. You have to
There we
market
go.
towards your audience.
There
And
we go.
then there's the buy-in. But
Right.
yeah,
And there's the continued support, because once you hook someone emotionally, they will be a fan. They'll be a fan for life.
like
That
Devil's Air, who is like, stop selling to me and just shut up and take my money. Devil's Air, I love you, dude. You're funny. You crack me up. I've been chuckling in the background just watching his comments. He loves to comment, which I love. And like,
right. No, that's great. No, you got to have that good
I
interaction.
was like, oh my gosh. This one earlier, I was just like, oh, I'm artistically hard, if that's a thing. And I was just like,
if that's even a thing. Oh,
he's great in the chat. So Devil's Air, you're one of my favorites. So question for Xing, is this the full set? Oh, he's looking for the full set. It's the Extordium set.
Yeah, so the Exordium set, that is just the first 4 preludes that lead into the graphic novel. Each one of them is 32 pages. But what's unique about that is I made that so that the graphic novels are over 100 pages. Like Consequence 1, it's 148 pages. Sometimes people aren't ready to jump all the way into the deep end. They need a sample. So the Extra DM set is a sample of what you can expect to get if that's your, if that's your cup of tea and you realize, hey, this is something I could get into. Each one of those books gives you a sneak peek from the book that follows it. So you get a little taste of what's happening in the story. And then there are the regular releases, which are the full graphic novels. And Consequence 3 released this year. And it was great because it came out, it sold out. I had to do a second printing. That sold out. So I had to do a third printing. And I'm on the third printing now, and there's only like 10 copies of that left. So I'm gonna have to make another printing here soon. But when it comes to selling that, what that is, can I ask a question? Could you
yeah,
because I'm looking at it I have it on my end and it's showing the updated version.
That's weird.
That is weird.
I just clicked on it today. It's not like it's not a link I used from earlier.
That is so strange.
I'm on an Apple computer. I'm using Chrome. I don't know.
It's so weird because it is. I mean, I'm looking at it and it is.
You're like, I swear to God, I updated this, Laurie.
It's updated, and I'm just like, why is it doing that? And I'm trying to see why. Hang on, let me read.
Sometimes you have to publish the page. Like it looks like it's there on your end because you're in the background of the website. You're in the editor version. But for me, I use WordPress, so I can see all my updates. But then I actually have to like publish the updates. I don't know if that's what your website does.
Yeah. Oh, that's the mobile version that has not. That's why, because I'm like, yep, okay.
I'm on a desktop. That's
so.
Weird.
That is, but see, even here, Wow. Okay. Now I just refreshed it. Now, okay. See, now it's showing the Exordium set as it should be with all 4 books. I can see it right here, but here it's not. That is so strange. It is not showing that. Can you? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, if I
Oh,
click into it, it does this. Oh, this
So
is the
that-
picture you wanted.
This is correct. That is correct. So this shows you everything that you get with consequence
Hey.
0, 2, 3, and 4. And
Hi, Doc.
oh,
Yeah.
hello. And so these are all the things you get. It shows you with the flyers and the description of everything, that you get. The soundtrack as a digital download. It comes in the collectible boxes. All of that stuff is there. And it's so that people get an experience. That's not just a book, but I want people to feel like they've literally stepped through another dimension. They're in another time, another place, and that's where all of this is happening. And what's funny is, for all the people who said no, for all the rejections, now I have had some of the biggest names in comics come out in support of what I'm doing. I've had actors and actresses from shows like The Handmaid's Tale, Spiral, Ballers, executives from Konami, Santa Monica Studio. And I think part of it I think is because when you get like movie credits for things, it gives you access to things you normally wouldn't be able to get access to that way, because you have things that you're a part of like that. And so it allows me to kind of, reach out to certain people and say, hey, I'm at this company and this is what I do. And so that does help play a part in opening that door more readily that way.
Yeah.
But I showed it to Santa Monica Studio, and they're like, this is absolutely awesome. And I'm like, how is it that people who make God of War, one of the most successful game franchises ever, brilliant games, brilliant storytelling, true masters of what they do, they can look at what I'm doing and they're telling me I'm doing it right, whereas all the other people I tried to go to were just like, yeah, no, we don't see it.
I think they were looking at it through a different lens, because, and I think that my world kind of falls into this as well. Because when I originally wrote the script, it was meant to be a screenplay, and we're turning it into a comic book. So again, I'm pitching it as a comic book, but maybe I need to pitch it as a screenplay. You see what I mean? It's the thing for you. It's like you're pitching it as a comic, but the comic book people are like, meh, and they're stuck in their 2D world. But these 3D people can look at it and be like, I can see this moving in my head. I can see the lush color and the texture. When I look at your books, I see, it makes me think of like Geiger. It makes me think of a lot of video games. Devil May Cry,
great game franchise.
Bayonetta. I think. You see what I mean? Final Fantasy, of course. I see much more lush worlds and 3D world with this. Not that the 2D art is in any way, shape, inferior, but I think like the 3D guys are looking at this and are blown away and are just thinking what they could do with it, as opposed to the 2D guys that are like, man, it's been done. You did it. It's already there. You know what I mean? They're not, the buy-in isn't there for them. So that's what I think the difference is the medium. So I think that you're finally finding your people, which is awesome. And
it is. It's very cool. Like it again, it's just it's like I just just wanted to tell my story. That was all.
Right.
It wasn't because I set out to do all these things. I wasn't trying to, I want to do this. I was just like, no.
We
I
can
just wanted to tell
obviously
my
see
story.
that the story lives in you and has for decades. I think Devil's there put it, where did he put it? Because I put this up here too. I was like mesmerized by how you were describing your world. Your voice speaks volumes. You obviously have passion for it. And I could sit here and listen to you talk about this world all day long, because the way that you describe it, with the beauty, the horror, the suffering, but also with like these musical terms, the Baroque. I studied music in college as well. So like Baroque music is its own thing. It's not just the music. Baroque was like how they lived, right?
It was a whole style, style.
Right.
That whole, and of course that's when you look at, and so like the character harpsichord.
Yes.
Her whole name is harpsichord harpist Stradivarian Valgun. She is, and she rules this kingdom called the Crystallis Kingdom. And actually, wait, hang on one second.
Trying to find a good picture.
Let me get something.
I was gonna say, I want to show people. You know what I mean? Because I get what you're saying. It's like they're musical, but it's a whole attitude. It's what they wear plus their soul. It's like it's what they carry with them. You know what I mean? It's amazing what you've built.
Let me find the picture of her palace. Hang on, that is in here, so I can show you.
I can read your shirt now. It's hilarious.
Oh yeah, I've had this for so long. It is like super old. Hang on, where is? No, that's the City of Music. Here we go. So like this, an example. See, that's the palace of harpsichord harpsis, and what's interesting about it is the way that it is. What you see at the top, that's actually an illusion. The palace is upside down, but the inside is right side up. So it's an incantation that makes it seem like what's there is there. Actually, what's there is at the bottom, but the entire inside is turned the other way architecturally, even though it seems like it's sitting the opposite way that way. And then this is her. That's Empress Harpsichord Harpsis right there. So that's an example of hang on, let me find here's okay.
Devil's Air is just blown away today. See, this is why I love this show, guys. I love this show just because I get to have just the coolest creators on. And we get to just talk about this amazing stuff that is not mainstream, that you are never going to find anywhere else. You got to, you know what I mean? It's the indie world, which is so incredible.
I even took it to Diamond, and Diamond, I screen captured their email because some people are like, no, really? And I'm like, I can show you. I'm like, and I send them the screen capture. Diamond said, we are politely declining your series, and they said the name of it, Ximphonic Verses, and they said because we can't compare it to anything on the market. So
and we talked about this. That is insane. That's insane.
Like, why?
Right?
That made me think, but isn't that why you should do that? Isn't that why you should say, hey, here is something new? We can't put it into the confines of what you typically see, but that should be enough to draw people's curiosity.
Thank you.
And they were like, no, we're not gonna.
Sorry, we can't put it in a box.
Can't put it. So I'm like, okay. So I just continue to sell and to present it to people. And I mean, there are some books that are at bigger publishers that have not sold the amount of books that I have sold without a publisher, without distribution. Nope. And one of the things I always tell people at the end of the day,
even with distribution, it's not happening.
Even with distribution, it often does not happen. It's not every book sells out at distribution level. And it's like, yes, this is my series. These are my characters, my creation. It will always be that, but
Yes.
it becomes something more because of people who believe in it. They are the real heroes. It will always just be what it is, but it's because other people say, you know what, I like that, and it excites me. I want to talk about it, and I want to tell other people.
Yes.
See, they are the ones who make it into something more, and then we share that experience together. That's you share that with them, and they become a part of this community. They become a part of what makes it work. And my responsibility to readers is to continue to give them the very best quality and standards that I can deliver. That is my job.
Amen,
Then
Jing. Amen.
everything else, because the one thing that drives me up the wall, there is no excuse for lazy art. There is no excuse for lazy writing. There is no excuse to not have a product that is delivered in a fashion that is without equal. I have literally seen and heard stories about creators who put books in bags, like a grocery bag, and
Yeah.
mailed it to someone like that. And I'm like, how could
What is
you?
wrong with you?
What's wrong with you?
I'm with
couldn't-
you. I want the whole experience. You know what I mean? And like my husband's big on tabletop games from Kickstarter. Oh, that's another thing that your story reminds me of is another tabletop game called Kingdom Death Monster.
I haven't heard of that.
You haven't?
Mm-mm. I don't really. I'm not on like. I've been okay. Here's just real side note. I'm not trying to interrupt you. Just a side detail. I don't have anything against crowdfunding. I very early on when it first came out, I supported several campaigns, and I got burned by all of them. And so I was just like, no.
And we're done.
I'd rather, if I find something that is interesting me, if the person has a store or a shop, I would rather just go buy it from them directly than as opposed to the crowdfunding thing. So that's why I'm just kind of like, nah, I'll get it right from the person.
Yeah.
Makes it easier. But the game.
So the game, it took 2 years in production because it was massive. The box came and it was larger than one of my children at this point. And but it was this whole experience of opening this box, and every single part of the box, like your box, had art on it. And it's like you would open compartments and take out miniatures, and then like the decks of cards had an ornate box that you know what I mean? So every little thing was thought about. And so that's how I function too. Like I you know, and being an indie creator and being brand new into this business, I was like, even from the beginning, I understood that. So I was like, I got Gemini mailers because that's what I was told I'm expected to mail in. But I started stamping stuff on it right from the beginning. Like, I'm just going to make it my own. You know what I mean? So when people start seeing my symbol, that skull symbol, they know it's from me. Right. And how I package it all myself, and I write notes to people, and you know what I mean? It's that personal touch.
Exactly.
That I think makes the difference.
You have to be able to do that, because your people could use their hard-earned money to invest in anything, but when they take the time to say, hey, you know what, I see this and I can appreciate what it is, that is then the weight and the obligation of the creator to ensure that you get the very best quality, and that anything less is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. I will never, ever, ever, ever allow my product to not be given to readers in a pristine fashion. If books have dings, I will not sell them. If it even has a small bent corner, I will not sell it. I will have entire printings remade before I sell someone something that is not to the level to which I expect it to be. Because if if you have a standard of quality and then you drop it, it's funny. The Japanese for many years have lived with this philosophy that the gentleman's standards are very hard to reclaim, because if you lose that, to get it back to where it was becomes nearly impossible, because it took so much to create the standard, and now you've let it decline. So now we can't do as it was, because the consistency has been lost. That's why it's so important to keep it constantly trying to move upward. That's all we can do. And so there are just certain things where it's like, and again, like, you know, everyone says, oh, Gemini mailers, Gemini. That's not quality. I get why they do it. I understand that. But that's typical. That is normal. That is, if you want to obliterate mediocrity, you have to literally think laterally, which is to look at things the way none of your contemporaries are doing them. And I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I remember there were shows I used to go to where the top capacity was like 500 people, maybe 800 people. And now some of these cons have turned into these massive tens of thousands of individuals. Wait, I muted my phone. Why is it?
Don't you love when Siri takes over? She's like, I didn't understand that.
I'm
starts
just like, wait, what? No, how did that? It's, but it's like, you know, I get it, but again, for things to stand out, it has to be different. It cannot be a carbon copy. You cannot, and I have a preference to very varied styles of art for me, and I'm very particular, and it's not a, you know, like, I can understand why some people will look at a book like Saga and think that it's the best thing since sliced bread. I can appreciate that. That's just an example. I get it.
Right.
You know, I've not read that series. I've thumbed through the books. It's interesting, but for me personally, that doesn't do it. That doesn't make the blood move. But if you look at, you know, you look at things like from Hong Tae Kim, you look at things from Tetsuya Nomura, you look at things that it'll blow your mind. Like it blows your mind, and then it makes you try to put your mind back together to understand what it is that they just did, in the way that they presented it, in the way that they showed it. And that's how you move people. You need the story, but you need the art that way too, but you need the qualities to be equal, and the presentation needs to be equal. And who wants to, you know, if you went and bought an Xbox and they gave it to you in a bag, no box, just cords laying out, who would want to buy it? You'd be like, wait a minute, is this new? Yeah, it's all new. It's just no box. We just, you know, there you go, damaged, broken. Who wants to get that? But like you said, with the experience with that tabletop game, opening it, getting that thrill. And that's why, even though today I showed a few of the pages, you've seen a lot of my posts, I never post full pages online. I will show little snippets of panels, little pieces of artwork, but it's because I don't want to take that experience away from the reader. I don't want to say, oh, here's my whole book. You can look at it online. There are no digital versions of Ximphonic Verses. None. There, because I've had people ask, oh, I'm trying to, you know, find your book and I'm looking for it online. Yeah, you're not going to find it. It's not there. There's a reason I keep it where there are no digital versions. That's on purpose. It is so that when someone gets the book, when someone reads it, and then for the first time they're going through the pages and they're reading the story, I want them to keep that experience. That's not for me to take that away from them. yes, I understand the excitement of getting your product out there, but the time that will come, it will happen. But getting it the right way, presenting it the right way, getting it to readers the correct way, that is how you do it. And that's what will keep them coming back again and again and again. That's how I'm able to sell. Is it's not just because it's not like I've got Rumpelstiltskin's dagger and it's some, incantation, right, that I'm using some spell to make stuff happen the way I'd like it to. No. It's these things that over many, many years of trial and error that I have learned and that I have figured out. And that's how you have to present it. It's how you have to give people those memories, because then it's like that expression, memories become greater than the dreams. And it's true, because then people will look back, oh man, I remember when I was waiting for that. Oh, and then we got it in this, and oh, I saw the trailer for that, and all those, it evokes all those feelings all over again. And then next thing you know, the person is like, I went back for my fix. I needed to feel that again. I went back for those memories, and that's what it does. And and you have to willing to be flexible in how you're trying to show things to people. I had one creator, and he's someone who in those circles is very well known, but that's also part of the problem. You can never really get to the top if you're all scrambling in the same space, because all you do is topple over each other. It's like looking at a pond with tadpoles in it. There's nowhere to go. Everybody is just all over everybody else, and they're all kind of doing the same thing. They're trying to fight their way to get somewhere else, but it's not working. Why? Because they haven't got to that point where they can take it to something else. They haven't become something more yet. And that's not a thing where it's meant to seem negative. No, that is a fact. We all are continually refining what we do. You grow, you evolve, you become a next level of yourself. When you keep reaching these levels, when you keep achieving these certain types of goals, the problem is that people want to do this. Look at me, look at me, look at me. Here's my Kickstarter. Look at it. Tell me it's great. Buy it. It's this. And it's like, but you're all doing that for each other. And I get that. And you might pick up an occasional new fan here and there. But if you cannot take what you do and sell it to anyone in 30 seconds or less, you need to go back to the drawing board. That means it's not really as it should be, because there are people who don't even read comics that I've met, and within a few minutes, I've turned them into buyers. I've turned them into fans. One very nice gentleman, he said, I have not read a comic in nearly 30 years. He said, but seeing this and seeing what you do and hearing you talk about it, he said, you have turned me into a believer again. And he has bought every copy of every book that I have published.
That's
Stop.
He's like, I already said I could do it. Okay, just all stop now.
and let me tell you, Devil's Air, and I will do this for you. Whenever you purchase your books, I will include extra things in your order so that you have things to share with other people, so you don't have to give away what you've got. So I'll give you extra copies of things so that you can share it with other individuals who might enjoy it. Because at the end of the day, this is not about me. This is not about, oh, I wanted to, no. This is about Prince Adonis. This is about his story. And it's about how that interacts with individuals who read it. And that's how you do it. That's what it is. It's not, all this other, a lot of, I see a lot of individuals who they're just like, oh, here's a whole bunch of Kickstarter links, just go like it. And that brings us back to your point, my friend, of, okay, you're saying that, but why? What is the hook for that?
Right.
What is it about that makes it unique, makes it what it is? I was on a podcast with oh my gosh, my brain.
I saw you on a podcast with Timothy Fling.
With Tim. Oh, I feel so bad. I can't believe I forgot his name.
Was that the one you're talking about?
Yes. With him.
That's where I first saw you. Well, I heard you talk. I think you had your avatar up, but it was like you and Christian, and there was some other really well-known creators. And I was just so interested in what you guys were talking about. I was all up in that chat. I was just like,
I remember that. And what I appreciate about that is Christian. He had that was the next point I was going to when we were talking about that, and his illustration that he used was so perfect and spot on. And I will repeat it for people to hear here. This is the truth. Selling is like going on a date and you're telling someone, I want you to love me. Why won't you love me? Why won't you that is going to make someone be like, yo, whoa, I just met. We're just having a drink. What are you talking about? That will scare a person away. But you get to know someone. You get familiar with them.
Yes.
You build. There's something there that you have to build. That is how you do it. You can't force things to happen. You have to allow them to happen. That is that is very much, and I think especially, Laurie, you can appreciate this as someone who is a martial artist. So many of the things that happen, you cannot force a technique to work. It doesn't work that way, because if you're trying to do that, it doesn't pan out the way people think. I remember my master's master talked about in one of the Dinsho, which that for anyone who's just curious, that means a scroll. Like it's a transmission. It's a U of knowledge that is passed from one generation or a succession of Denkai to the next. But he spoke about weaponry and how if you try to make a weapon a slave, it will not work, because it is not a slave to you. It is really an extension of yourself. It is a part of what you do. So you cannot make it a slave, but you have to allow it to work with you. You have to allow it to move with you. And so it's the same principles. Anything that is advanced is just a mastery of the basics from another perspective. That's all it is. There are no hidden techniques. There are no secrets. There are no secrets in nature. There are no secrets in these. This is just what it is. And people can all day say, oh, come to my seminar and pay all this money and do this and do that. But they're using the very tactics you want to learn on you to make themselves wealthy, to make themselves into this position they want to be in. And it's like, no, that's not how you do that. So it's the same thing. If you want to sell, I have many creators privately message me asking for tips and how to do this and how to do that. And I always start with the very basic things. I did a Zoom with one not too long ago, and I said, okay, imagine I'm a customer. I don't know you. I don't know your stuff. You got 30 seconds. Give it to me. What is it?
Right. Go.
And they were like, well, I can't. Well, and then, but no, I forgot this part. And so you don't, if no one is going to stand there and say, let me wait for 10 minutes at Comic-Con for you to tell me this before I go to another table. They'll just be like, oh, okay, well, thanks, man. I'm gonna go.
Right. I might come back. I might come back,
but it's not going to turn into a sale right there. So I've taught several panels at shows that I've done about storytelling, about how to move storytelling forward, little things that are important to do that help create that dynamic that you need for a story to to move itself naturally along, so that it's not just one endless, they do this, they do this, they do this, they do this, but it's that loop is not going anywhere different. It's not evolving into something more. And so that's where it's important to really know your craft, to really know what it is that you're doing and the story that you're trying to tell, so that you're able to present it from the various perspectives for anyone who might have an interest that is slightly different from a person before them. And that's how you share it with them. And then but you have to know it. You have to really know it. Not, well, I wrote it and well this and
yeah, but so did everybody else. And that's the thing is like the art of the elevator pitch is really key when it comes to introducing your story. And I think that, me as a new creator, newish, I put myself out there, and it's like, the more times you do it, the better you get at it.
Exactly.
So I think people just need to do it. It's just like martial arts. It's repetition until it's second nature.
Until
right?
It's second nature. That's it. It's
muscle memory. People ask you questions. This is it. 30 seconds and you're done. And so people work on it, and it's like you really have to work on that elevator pitch, and it needs to be something that's catchy. And then once you have everybody's interest, like once they're like, okay, tell me more, that's when you can go into more detail. Oh, and this is my story, and this is the way I built the world, and blah 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 blah. But you still want to keep it relevant to what's going on there, as opposed to like, yeah, I wrote this. I live in Texas. I'm local. Like, great. That's great. I want to support a local person, but I'm not just going to give you my dollars if you're like, it's a story about a bear. Like, is it? What else is it? Right?
Exactly. So, you're 100% right.
Devil's Air has a few questions, though. I want to make sure we get to them before the show runs out of time. So the first question he asked was, I can imagine how difficult it's going to be to animate your comic. Is it a full comic or a books and comic? I think how are they animating it? Are they going to animate it as episodes, and like a season is one book, or what do you think?
Yes. So it's going to be 2D. It's going to be an anime, like animated series that way. The first season has 26 episodes, and so now there are certain things the network decides how far certain things. There are a lot of things that even though I'm the creator and my job is to get the whole team up to speed on the series and to get everyone familiar with it, but there are certain things where the network will decide, this is how we're going to cover this is how we're going to, and the showrunner and things like that. So it's that I can't wholly speak on how they'll want that to exactly be done. I hope it will allow me to, cover a lot of the ground that I'd like to cover, because Ximphonic Verses is the main storyline alone is 930 chapters. That's how long it is. And I think
you and Carissa are like neck and neck for how many.
Oh, I mean, I know she has hers, but I can assure you, no. The people have not seen the depths to which this goes.
Where it's going.
There are, and that's just the story about Prince Adonis. That's not counting Sapphiros' side story. That's not counting the other Ximphonic Verses stories that they all take place in this world, but they are all connected. So there is there are so many things that people have never seen. I have so much artwork, so many things that people have not, they haven't even seen yet, from these various books, from these other stories.
And you just said you're doing 3 books at the same time.
Yeah,
I don't know anybody that can do that in their own story, like jumping around in the story and work. Oh man.
Well, I just like some days it's just like scripts. Some days it's art and scripts. Some days I'm storyboarding and designing and drawing pages and doing backgrounds, but I'm a one-man show. I literally, it's just me. Like it is, and it typically takes, for each graphic novel, there's typically like 3 years between each release because of it takes so long to like do all of the things that goes into making it what it is, and I do so many test proofs to ensure that the way the art looks printed, that it matches as close as it can to what you get on the computer. Because then once I see it, I go back and I will change the art, I'll enhance it, or I'll do certain things and then print another copy to see how it looks again until it's just right. So
I feel
you know, so that's for that. As for the stuff with the TV show, so I don't know how they'll want to do all of that, but we'll see. You know, but it is the first season is slated for 26 episodes.
Wow, that's a lot of episodes. Usually when they do pilots, people, you're given like 6 episodes to tell a story.
Yeah.
Look at Castlevania. When they did their first anime,
they started with 4. Yeah.
You see what I mean? And that's a well-known, property. People know that. I've played it for years, and they're like, "Sorry, guys, you get 4 episodes to tell your story. Good luck." I'm like, what is that? So for them to be like, "We're gonna plan this out over 26 episodes," bravo. Because that tells me that the studio was committed to telling the story, as opposed to like shove everything into like 6 episodes and good luck. And if people like what we put in there, then they'll come. That's always my concern when things get adapted, was that you don't give it enough room to breathe, and then people don't understand what it is. You know what I mean? Like Tank Girl was a great comic, and they tried to make a movie, and it was like no one really understood what the heck it was. You know what I mean? So it's like stuff like that. When it gets adapted, it's like, oh, I hope they do it right. But when you said 26, I'm like, okay, they're going to do it.
That would give. And there are certain things I know that, like, there are things in the graphic novel that probably won't be in the animated series, but there are things that will be in the cartoon that won't be in the cartoon that are in the graphic novel. So it kind of gives you a chance to see you'll be able to see it from a lot of different perspectives, elements of the story and things that kind of move it along, and it can alter it. It will change in certain ways, but the core elements of it, that stuff will be there. And I think about things like and this is not
the action is what is exciting to me, because again, on a 2D format, we can imply action. Of course, it's not moving, right? So when you get to animation, and then it can really give those fights. And I did not know, Xing, that you are a martial artist. So now I'm like super excited about these fights, because when I know that it's like my fights right now are basic, because my main character isn't a martial artist, but I have, technical fighters in my story later. So when we get to those fights, it's like, man, how are we going to communicate in 2D what this person is capable of? It's hard.
It's hard.
I think that's going to be amazing. That's obviously going to be more, you know what I mean? Because it'll give it time to actually show off skill and technique. And I want to see Baroque fighting, because that's going to be kick ass. I don't know. There are things in the trailer. It's funny talking with the storyboard team. There are, and a lot of it is like, I don't do animation. That's not something. It's funny because sometimes people will say, well, you know how to draw, why don't you just, and it's like, no, animation is totally different, guys.
It is its own entity by itself. That is, it's a whole other literal art form. And but in talking with them, it's like a free education. Here are people who worked on things that people all over the world have played, and they're like, hey, we like this scene, but we have some suggestions about A, B, and C. And so it's like, oh, wow, that makes sense, because you have to, you have to take into account the way that the camera angle moves, the way that the light will shift, the way the shadows will be. There are so many things that make it so different. And so then there are some scenes that they've looked at and they're just like, oh, this is great. Nothing's going to change. This is exactly as it should be. So there are a lot of things that have been like that. And then there are other things where they've taken it and they've enhanced it. They've pushed it even further than where it started, with how you're getting the presentation of it. And so the action, there are so many things, like when the storyboards were like halfway done, and I just put them together in a video, in an MP4, like where they just faded one scene to the next without the description, things like that. And I sent it to the executives at the film studio, and I sent it to my main point of contact, and he was like, yeah, send this to the rest of us. So then I put out a bigger email that it goes to everybody and him, and then they take it, and it's like that then gets taken and it gets showed to the network so that they can see the progress on it. When I got the prototypes in and I had the pictures of it, same thing. Cool. They saw it. Good. Send it to us, all of us, so we can get it. And then the network. So the people at the top of these food chains, they have seen these things that are being worked on. And I wish I could show people. I wish people could see. But I think for people who maybe have been on the fence about Ximphonic Verses, I think when they see that trailer, I think that will change their mind, because if they can see that and then say that's what it is, and it's like, yeah, it's the same thing. This is exactly what I've been doing this whole time. That can then, help them to see, okay, let me get it so I can start reading it. Plus, this is just a nerd out thing that is so awesome. I never thought, there are people that I've met that I never thought I would ever meet. Just, because it's like, they're all up there in the high echelons of things. And I love Two Steps from Hell. They are brilliant composers. So that dynamic duo is just absolutely amazing. And I actually got to talk to them, and I told them about what I was trying to do, and I said, I love you guys' music, and I'm all these things, and we had to go through all this, get the contract and all this stuff, but they're going to do the music for the trailer. So amazing. It's just like, that's the kind of stuff that has happened. Those are the kind of things that have gone on, and they could have easily saw what I was doing and was like, no, we're not interested. But they said, they're like, wow, this is great. We really like the art. We like the concept. This is what you need to do. These are the people that you get in touch with. And so I had to take that information and get it to the movie executives, and they had to sign off on there's a lot. There are that's the thing that from the backside of things, because I've had a lot of people be critical of what I do, because they say, oh, well, where's the show? You said there's a show. Where's the, and it's like, do you realize how much it takes to turn a series from concept into actually being on the air? The amount of work, the amount of financial backing that it takes. And the studios, they cover all that stuff. But when stuff gets held up, when things get pushed back, and I look at it this way. A perfect example. I don't like the sequel trilogy at all. And I'm just like, no, I don't like it. That's not why I'm saying this. But what I'm saying is, when Rian Johnson started writing The Last Jedi. He started writing it in 2012, I believe. That movie did not come out until 2018, 2017.
Oh, the Flash movie that came out this past year was in production for 12 years because of all the issues that it had. So people usually don't understand the amount of things that go into the media that you're consuming. However, we gotta wrap up the show because there's a show after me.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, dude. It's like 2 hours just flies by sometimes, and I feel like today was one of those days where it felt like we've been talking for 15 minutes and it's been 2 hours, and this was just the most interesting conversation. That I had a blast. You are always welcome on the show. I look forward to being on panels or doing whatever else, hanging out in the chat and listening to you talk. But for everybody, of course, go check out I can't even talk anymore. Ximphonic Verses. Please go to the website. You go check it out. There's books for sale. There's all the updates are there. And then before we go, Devil's Air was asking how he could get in contact with you. What's the best way?
Best Facebook, Instagram, anything. Like I'm on it all so he could send me a friend request if he needs to look me up through your Facebook page or contact me on YouTube, anything. And
he said he found you on Facebook. I just wanted to make sure that that's the best way. Yeah. And
perfect.
Xing and I are friends. So if you need help finding it, just if you're friends with me, or go look for me on Facebook, and Xing is in my friends list. But you can find him. Just go look up Ximphonic Verses. They'll come right up, dudes. Absolutely. We had a blast.
This has been so fun. So much fun.
I look forward to watching your success. I feel like I was just, blessed to have you on the show, that I get to talk to you and hear you talk about your project one-on-one, and that when it takes off, because it will, I get to say, like, Xing and I are friends. And they'll be like, shut up. And I'll be like, no, really, go watch my episode 98, the Tuesday Brew. He was there before it all, before it went down. So
that's right. No, you can like message me anytime. I'll be like, yes, my friend, what's up, homie?
That's right.
How we do that. Yeah.
Be like, see, proof. But I love everybody. Please be safe out there. Be excellent to each other. Kiss your babies. And of course, we will see you here next week with another awesome indie creator. And I'm really looking forward to getting to episode 100. See you then.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Everybody.
Bye.
There is a creature in the swamps. It lives to destroy. The beast they call Hogzilla.
After his latest get-rich scheme goes sideways, Gary Duba, the quintessential Florida man, ends up with a stash of somebody's high-end memorabilia. His gal Crystal is on probation and preparing for the fight of her life, squaring off against Australia's Queen of Combat. Delilah's got her back in training, staying off rich foods and the nose candy. Meanwhile, Gary and his best friend Floyd have been hired to wrangle a massive, abnormally aggressive feral hog that's terrorizing the swamp and wrecking Gary's old neighborhood. Can they bag the elusive monster swine without destroying the Sunshine State? Reserve your copy of Florida Man vs. Hogzilla at FloridaManComics.com. We're bringing back funny books, y'all.
The Civil War was America's bloodiest conflict. Over 500,000 died to preserve national unity. When the war ended, Confederates like Harley Brogdon headed west, shooting game for the Army and gambling. When a card game turns deadly, Harley shoots in self-defense, killing the card sharp who threw down first. Wilfred Knorr, the card sharp's wealthy father, will stop at nothing to see Harley hang. Harley flees to Cobb's Gap, an old silver mining town at the foot of the Rockies. A remarkably peaceful town, especially after dark. But the sheriff harbors a dark secret, and no one dares go into the mines anymore. Cobb's Gap is full of secrets. People speak in hushed tones of something in the mines. Something worse than their cursed sheriff. Something even the Indians fear from the deepest pits of hell. Every secret will be exposed. Bronze Star. Order your copy at bronzestarcomic.com.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit CB4